Now we have two rooks and king against a king. The key here is to begin by setting up a barrier that leaves the black king in the smallest possible section of board. We do that by moving either king to the 5th rank. Either rook to the 5th rank. We can move the rook on h1 to h5, or we can move the rook on a1 to a5. We'll look at rook to h5. We have this barrier, and the king has plenty of squares. 5 in all. King moves to f6, and now white moves the other rook. So the rook on h5 controls the 5th rank. A second barrier on the 6th rank is created by the rook on a6, and the black king has 3 squares on the 7th rank to which it may move. If the black king moves to g7, there's a trap. If white moves the rook to h7, grabbing control of the 7th rank, maintaining control of the 6th rank, the king simply takes the rook, and now white has more work ahead of her. Instead, white must make sure the rook is safe from the king, so the rook slides over to the other side of the board, maintaining a barrier on the 6th rank, but leaving black plenty of choices. Black avoids the edge because that's where checkmate will occur, and moves to f7. Now white slides the rook down, gaining a new control of the 7th rank, maintaining control of the 6th rank, and forcing the black king to the edge of the board. Whichever square the king chooses, in this case f8, we now move rook to a8. The 8th rank is controlled, the 7th rank is controlled, the black king is in check by the rook, has nowhere to move. It is checkmate. Back to the starting position we used before. We've already seen from this position the rolling barrier. Queen to g5 check, king e6, rook to f6 check, king e7, queen to g7 check, king e8, rook to f8 checkmate. From this position we can also achieve a checkmate in 4 moves with the queen and rook roll. We begin queen to d4 check. Here we see that the queen controls the d file, the rook controls the f file, both pieces control e4, and both queen and rook protect one another from capture by the black king. Black king has one legal square, e6. King e6, and now we alternate queen and rook. The rook moves, rook to f6, check, king is in check, the queen controls the d file still, the rook controls the f file, the queen protects the rook, and the 5th rank is controlled. The rook and queen control that, leaving the black king one square. The king moves, and now the queen moves. Queen to d6 check. We see that the king is in check, queen controls the d file, the rook the f file, both pieces control e6. The king has one legal move. King e8, and now rook to f8. This is checkmate. The rook is attacking the king, the queen is protecting the rook, The 8th rank is controlled, the 7th rank is controlled, the rook, the queen, the rook and queen, and so it's checkmate. We'll go back and look at that again. Queen d4 check, king e6, rook f6 check, king e7, queen d6 check, king e8, rook f8, checkmate. Now we have another position. Again, a white rook is in danger of capture by the black king. Queen to e5, checks the king, protects the rook protects the queen. We can see that all the squares around the black king except one are covered by the white pieces, which protect each other. The king is forced to f7. Now we move the rook to g7. Again, black has only one legal move. The rook is protected by the queen. All the squares around the black king are under control. The rook has the g file, the queen has the e file, the queen controls f6, protects the rook. The 6th rank is controlled by the queen, these two squares, the rook, this square. King is in check by the rook. The king must move to f8. King f8, and now queen to e7 is checkmate. Here we have a diagonal check. The 8th rank is controlled by a combination of rook and queen. The queen controls e8, the rook g8. Both pieces control f7. We'll watch that again. Queen to e5 check, king f7, the only legal move. Rook to g7 check, king f8, the only legal move, and queen e7, checkmate. Now we have a position from an 1867 match between Gustav Neumann and Samuel Rosenthal. This looks like a complicated position, but it turns out that the queen and rook roll position is hidden in this. From this position, white played f takes g7 check. The king is in check by the pawn. No problem for black. Black captures the pawn with the queen. Now rook takes h6 check. Rosenthal could choose to capture the rook with the queen, and then the queen would take the queen, and white would be up a queen to a rook. This game might last a while longer, but a player of Neumann's capabilities would certainly win this. Rosenthal opted instead to move his king. Perhaps he hoped that white would trade queens. Instead, white snatched the pawn on e6. Now, if black were to, say, move a pawn, such as g3, white is threatening to move the rook, winning the black queen. No doubt Rosenthal did not want this to happen, so he moved his king to f8. What should Neumann do in this position? Neumann played queen to c8, check, leaving black one legal move. We can see that the black king must move to e7. The check cannot be blocked. The king has nowhere else to go on the 8th rank. King must move to e7. Rosenthal moved to e7. And now rook to e6 is checkmate. We can see that we have our queen and rook roll checkmate pattern with plenty of pieces still on the board. Learning these basic checkmates can be useful not only when you're down to only a few pieces, but sometimes when there are still plenty left on the board.